Every Tuesday in the month of October, we've been talking ghosts. I have Dan and Larry from the Ghost Hunter Dan Norvell Project, and we've got another location today. What are we talking about today, Dan?
Today we're talking about the Screamatorium in Brodhead, Wisconsin.
By the way, when it gets cold like this, do the ghosts start wearing flannel sheets then, or?
They may, but we haven't photographed any flannel sheets yet.
Yeah. So what the Screamatorium up in Brodhead is what we're talking about today. Give me some background, because, of course, obviously right now it's a haunted house, but it hasn't always been a haunted house.
No, it used to be the middle school there in Brodhead, and fairly big school. I mean, the building is humongous.
How many classrooms would you say? Do you have any idea?
Oh, my gosh. Probably, I would say more than 20.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big school.
Yeah, it's a big school. 3 floors. But the Screamatorium, they operate on the first floor, and it's one heck of a big haunted house. It's probably one of the biggest ones I've ever been in.
That's a lot of space to have a haunted house.
Absolutely. And when you walk into the gymnasium, they have full-size busts of Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger. I mean, these are full-size busts.
Wow.
They really went the extra mile to make sure everything was haunted house worthy, and it definitely is.
So besides the haunted house, which, I mean, that's great and all, but that wouldn't bring you guys there.
No, that wouldn't bring us there. It is a haunted house that's actually haunted.
There's probably not a lot of those out there, are there?
Not too many that I know of. Larry's more into the haunted house stuff than I am.
Okay.
So how about you? You know of any?
I mean, the potential's there, but the problem with haunted houses is a lot of the times, you don't have somebody that owns the building,
right,
and then runs the house. They rent the building out, and then once the house is done, it goes back to normal business.
Right.
The one that I worked at for many, many years is the McHenry Jaycees. They had a barn that was some guy's barn, and then for the month of September, October, November, they had the house, and then after that, it was just a barn again. So, I mean, warehouses.
Right.
I think Dungeon of Doom in Zion, just massive warehouse.
But are there any locations, haunted houses, that are actually haunted?
I'm not gonna lie. I think this is our first.
Right.
So, if anyone out there owns a haunted house and they think it's haunted, look us up. We'll go.
All right. So let's get a little background. What's the story behind it? Obviously, there's got to be some sort of background that it is haunted.
Well, the owners had contacted us, and they had said that there was some strange goings on when they were doing their build up and their tear down, and they were hearing voices within the hallways and footsteps. And lo and behold, they'd think, "Oh God, somebody got into the building," and nobody's there.
Huh.
They've had boards fall in front of them, or one guy said they even had a board chucked across the hallway at them, and nobody was there. So they called us in. We went in and investigated, and we did catch some really interesting stuff.
Is there a story behind it? Did something happen there, or is it just kind of random that this haunting's happening? Well,
the story, there really wasn't any story to go with it. They had purchased the old building, thought it was a great place for a haunted house. They really had no background on it. The building lay dormant for 20 years. But how many transients or, people, how many kids went in there and partied, and who knows what could have went on in there. Like I said, transients looking to get out of the weather. Somebody passes away. There was a confirmed death in the building, and I believe it was a transient that had actually passed away in the building. So we do know of one confirmed death in the building.
Okay.
Otherwise, there was no reasoning. But one of the theories is, especially for a junior high school, and that's what it was, is that emotion, from kids being adolescent gets imprinted onto the walls.
Okay.
And the environment, and causes residual hauntings. But residual hauntings aren't going to throw boards at you. So a residual haunting is more like, I hit the play button on a VCR and it replays the event for me.
Okay.
So you can't really interact with a residual haunting. You can record it, you can see it, but you're never going to be able to interact with it because you're just watching a replay of an event that happened there.
When did the middle school close then?
Oh, geez. I think they said the mid-'80s.
Okay.
So.
And then how long has the haunted house been going on there?
The haunted house has been there for the past 2 years. 2 or 3. Yeah, it's been a year or two.
Okay.
Big haunted house. I mean, if you guys want to go to a cool haunted house, they definitely have pulled out no stops. It's awesome.
So obviously, before the haunted house went in there was basically nobody in there.
No.
So we don't know if things were going on in between the closing of the school and then
right
this. Do you know if anything happened when the school was open?
Now that they didn't have any confirmed reports or anything, and like I said, even when I'm not even sure, they weren't even sure that the transient that had passed away was even in the building when that happened. I think they found him outside, so it's not like he was even inside the building when it happened. But they did know he was living in there because they found various things that he had in there with him.
Right,
so,
which makes sense. You get an abandoned building like that.
Even when I was in middle school in the 90s, you still had kids that passed away.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Sickness and accidents.
Of course, yeah.
Like that. Any one of those happened, way back when, could actually move on to staying at the school. Especially a kid that, enjoyed school. They enjoyed their friends being there. The one clip that I had sent you for your YouTube, I couldn't send you the whole clip because it'd be like 30 minutes long. But going back and forth with the questions, and then Tess, our team sensitive, we were able to get information that it sounds like the little girl that we were talking to in some way knew the nurse of the school from at some point.
Okay, we're going to get into that stuff here in just a bit. So I want to get a little background first.
Yeah.
All right.
It could be a spirit that, died while in session in school.
Okay. That's interesting.
Is now there.
That's interesting. Okay. So obviously we kind of got a little bit of a background on the Brodhead Middle School up there, Screamatorium. Now, we'll come back. I'm going to play some Pink Floyd. We'll come back and we'll talk about your findings because I'm sure you had some interesting stuff up there. In the meantime, if you want to go to the Eagle YouTube channel, there is some video that they sent us of their visit up there. It's the Ghost Hunter Dan Norvell Project. Dan and Larry hanging out. They've been coming in every Tuesday in the month of October for Halloween. We're talking about the old Brodhead Middle School up in Brodhead, Wisconsin. It's now home to the Screamatorium Haunted House. It is a haunted house that is actually haunted. How'd you guys find out about it originally? Did they contact you?
They did contact us. They made contact with Larry, and Larry and the owner were talking quite a bit, and they said, well, why don't you guys come on up and check it out and see what you catch?
So let's talk about what you caught.
I'm going to let you talk about what we caught.
Larry's the expert in the world of...
I'm the one that sees all the stuff before it gets put out. You got to think, we're there for, 6 hours we were there?
So it's not like you're up there like 20, 30 minutes. You're up there. You spend several hours on location.
Sometimes several hours driving there, too. But we were there for about 6 hours. And then we had 2 mobile camcorders. And then I think 2 or 3 stationary camcorders. And for total video, I think we had about 16 or 18 hours of video.
And then that's your job to go through all that.
Go through it all. And then we had roughly around the same in individual audio recordings, too. Because we don't use the camcorder audio. We have an extra audio recorder on top of the camcorder that's a little bit higher quality.
Okay. That makes sense. Because the camera, that's usually not
not the greatest. Okay. But, and then, you got to splice them together and all that fun stuff. But you get to listen to both audios before you get rid of one of them. Because sometimes things will be on one audio but not on the other.
That makes sense. So what did you find?
Well, the one clip that we sent you, really interesting story. We're going through the house earlier in the day, kind of like a little tour. And they had started some of the build-up for the haunted house. So you had some rough walls, some basic props, I think from last year. And in one of the rooms, which is the room in the video, there's a little doll that is in like a little bassinet coffin thing. Kind of creepy. And, at the time of the tour, presumably the doll wasn't, smashed up and the face wasn't on the ground in pieces. But when we went back later in the night, all of a sudden parts of the face were on the ground, kicked underneath the table that the coffin was laying against. And in the clip that I sent you, that part's not covered because it'd be a 30-minute clip.
Right.
But the owners, they're like, when did this happen? How did this happen? They had no idea. And, when you do this for a while, you pick up on when people are kind of exaggerating a little bit,
Yeah, of course.
Kind of playing it up. And she was distraught. She was not exaggerating. This prop was broken and she had no idea how it broke.
And it freaked her out.
Right. Especially when you're doing a paranormal investigation, all of a sudden stuff's moving around and it's like, how did this happen?
Right.
So we started asking questions, and then that's the clip that you have for the first 3 minutes or so.
If you go to the Eagle YouTube channel, you can check out that clip right now. So they were experiencing things happening as they were working on the haunted house.
Yep. The most notable thing that Dan mentioned, they had a piece of wood wedged in a door, so the door would not close. And all of a sudden, that piece of wood flew out of the door. But no one saw the door move or anything. The wood just flew out. But in order to pull that wood out, you had to open the door all the way, pull it out, then throw it. So it was really strange. Later on that night, we actually had a situation where that door moved too. It was a heavy door.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we walked through, we got pictures and video of the door being open, and that we didn't go on the third floor very much. I think only our group did. And so no one else was up there, and all of a sudden we go back up there again, and now the door's closed.
I'm talking to Larry and Dan from the Ghost Hunter Dan Norvell Project. We're talking about the Brodhead Middle School, home to the Screamatorium for Halloween. Now, was it concentrated in one section of the school, or was it all over the school?
The activity?
Yeah.
It was, oddly enough, the majority of it was on the first floor. We did get some stuff on the second. Not as consistent. It was almost like because the second floor was a little bit bigger and there's more room to move around, it was kind of sporadic.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the first floor, it's almost like because the haunted house walls were up, it was kind of funneled into one area. And the spirit we did talk to was an intelligent spirit, so it kind of makes sense.
It's interesting. Do you think that the spirits in that school are upset that there's activity in there? They'd like to rather be left alone.
That's a tough one. And that'd be a better question for Tessa, our sensitive,
right,
because she can actually hear what they're saying. With us, we get whatever we get.
Right.
Sometimes it's a yes or no question using the K2 like in the video, and then you're still interpreting the response. Or, you'll use like a ghost box or an EVP recorder, and then you're still interpreting. Because sometimes the ghost box doesn't give you a clear answer. They'll give you like a couple words. And you have to do your best to try to piece the puzzle together.
That's interesting. Well, people, maybe, sometime before Halloween or right around Halloween, go up there and check out a haunted house that is really haunted, the Screamatorium.
A haunted house.
A haunted house. And have you got all this stuff up in your websites and everything?
Not yet. This is an episode of Expedition Entity that hasn't been posted yet.
Okay.
The network that we go through, they got remonetized on Facebook, so that took all of our videos and kind of bumped them back.
Okay.
So this was supposed to be coming out here in October, but now it's going to probably come out in a couple of months.
Okay.
So that clip, no one has seen. You haven't even seen it yet.
I haven't even seen it.
So go to our YouTube channel. It's
there.
No one has seen that one yet. I know you guys are always doing investigations and all kinds of things like that. What do you got coming up in the near future?
We do have a location coming up in November. We're going to keep that one under wraps, though, because that's probably going to be an expedition entity.
Okay.
So we don't like to release that stuff. We are going to be going back to Tinker Swiss Cottage.
Okay.
We will be going back to the Vets Hall. We actually stopped in and talked to Scott last week. Yeah, Tinker Swiss Cottage.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you guys.
Double T's going with us, so that will be cool.
Do you have any events coming up that people can come out and hear? Like I know you guys sometimes do talks and stuff like that. You got anything like that coming up?
We don't have anything on the books. Halloween night, I am planning on doing a live ghost hunt at Maple Cemetery in Kirkland, and anybody's free to come down there. The only problem is if it's snowing really super bad, I'll still be there, but I probably won't have my equipment on it a whole lot.
I understand that. If people want to find you and keep track of where you guys are, where are the best places to check out?
Probably the single best place is Facebook at the Ghost Hunter Dan Norvell Project. You can find us on YouTube at the Ghost Hunter Dan Norvell Project. You can find our website at www.ghosthunterdannorvell.com. N as in Nancy, O-R, V as in Victor, E-L-L. You can find us on Instagram. Larry's going to probably be putting us on TikTok soon.
You guys are all over social media, which is cool. So people, and with videos, and you do live feeds and all that stuff.
Yeah, we
too.
do an awful lot of live stuff, and I do the majority of the live stuff because I really like interacting with people, and they can ask me questions right there in chat, and I can answer it live. So
right.
Plus, I already have too much to do anyway.
Well, go check them out. The Ghost Hunter Dan Norvell Project. Larry and Dan, thank you so much for coming in every Tuesday in the month of October. And coming up in the near future, we're all going to go out together. And, of course, we'll do a follow-up of that investigation, which will be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. That's going to be awesome. So
thanks, guys. I appreciate it.